So this is something special in my opinion. This is from Gecko Custom Knife Works, and it is the Tokay, like the Tokay Gecko. It is a USA made knife, and if you are interested in it, stay tuned to the end because I will have all the rest of the details that I don't go over during this video. I'm just going to save it to the end. Now, Gecko Custom Knives, he does have some overseas manufacturing going on with some companies right now, but this is made in the USA. Some of the parts are made by Schenck Knives in Idaho, and then he does the rest of the work, you know, in his factory, or in his shop, I should say. So this is considered a mid-tech. It is a mid-tech, but my goodness, did he do a good job? This is phenomenal work. This is what I like to see from the USA. This makes me proud to say this is a USA made knife. Now this is a prototype, so any negatives I do have when we get into the negatives are subject to change. So just, you know, just know that. And there are a couple little things that are going to be changed. Now, blade steel. AEBL, it's 62 to 64 HRC. Beautiful machining lines. Now, I heard Transparent Knives the other day say he doesn't like these. He thinks they're ugly. I think it's beautiful. I freaking dig it. I love it. And this is very thin. 15 thousandths behind the edge with a nice deep hollow ground blade. Perfect sharpening tool and plunge grind. This is exactly how it should be done. Then we have a titanium frame lock with a beautiful 80s fat carbon fiber inlay. Gorgeous. This is very gorgeous. The inlay work is spectacular. It is seamless. Then it has a titanium mill pocket clip and back spacer. We'll talk about the clip here in just a little bit. Around the edges of the titanium, this is a blasted titanium. I'm not sure what type of blast, but it seems like an aluminum oxide blast. The action, before we get into the cutting performance and stuff like that, because we're gonna cut with it. We're gonna talk about sharpening it. We're gonna talk about just about everything. We're gonna do a head-to-toe analysis. Anyways, the thumb studs are the type of thumb studs I love on a knife. I always talk about this when companies don't give you good thumb studs. I always say, these are the type of thumb studs you usually want. Something with good texturing, where it's sharp, where it has a little platform for your finger to hit nice and comfortable. And this has that. The detent is tuned to perfection. I wouldn't want this detent any stronger or any weaker. It is literally, in my opinion, to my standards, a perfect detent. It makes it to where it's not weak enough to where you can't apply pressure. It has enough to where you can literally apply pressure and build it up and then launch whenever you're ready. Nice strong detent, but not too strong. It's literally just right. I love how you can hear the blade get pulled back into that detent, or the detent ball, you know, fall into the hole. Bang. All right, let's push this thing through some cardboard. I can feel the geometry is just so thin. 15 thousandths behind the edge. Man, this thing is so slicey. Look at that. I can easily do zigzag cuts. Yeah, this thing is very, very, very slicey. Let's take two pieces. It almost feels easier. Yeah, that is some good geometry. This is what I like to see out of an EDC pocket knife, this type of geometry. Not only is it going to benefit you in cutting performance, but it's also going to benefit you in sharpening and longevity, because as you sharpen it, it's not going to dramatically get thicker. So as you sharpen it, you're not going to have to worry about the geometry getting messed up. So the geometry should stay nice and slicey over time. Then also, sharpening is going to go a lot faster. Honing is going to go a lot faster. Everything's going to go a lot faster, from sharpening to stropping to honing. So the thinner geometry is going to benefit you in every way, shape, and form with a knife like this. The ergonomics when cutting, it feels good. You know, you have a lot of room because there's no flipper tab. So you can easily choke up right behind the edge right there and get a ton of leverage. Or you can choke back like that. You know, get a little thumb leverage. Now, as far as utility cuts go, obviously this thing's going to be a dream, right? It's a sheep's foot blade. Yeah, no doubt that this thing's not going to be, like I said, the pinch grips, the pinch grip's probably going to be where it shines the best. You know, being a sheep's foot blade, the pinch grip on this thing is going to be probably the primary way somebody uses this knife. Of course, you know, you're going to, when you grip it and slice, that's, you know, you're going to be able to do that just as well. But because of this utility style blade shape, yeah, utility cuts, opening things up, tracing things out is going to be so amazing with this. Okay, now I'm not trying to start off by going into negatives this early, but I do have one negative I want to talk about briefly, because one, as far as a good thing, this thing does have a stone sharpened edge. I can tell this is a fixed angled sharpened edge. So that's awesome. I love that that's the case, because to get the highest quality edge imaginable is going to have to be on a stone, which this is. So that's also going to prevent it from having a burnt edge. You know, it's just a better quality edge all the way around. However, whoever did sharpen it, you can see, so right now I'm facing it like this. The scratch pattern, in my humble opinion, should be running this direction like this, because that's the direction you cut. So, but if you look, they run side to side. So it appears that when they had the stone on the fixed angled sharpening system, they dragged it side to side. And that, what that does is that's going to disturb the little micro serrations that we like to use as a saw blade in order to hold bite. So I imagine that this knife will lose bite very quickly and could possibly, I'm not going to say it's going to microchip, I can't say that, but what I can say is that it's most likely going to lose bite quickly, because if it had the teeth running this direction, right, where each one, because those scratch patterns that you see when you're really looking at the edge bevel, the scratches from the abrasive that was used to sharpen it, each one of those equals a little micro serration when it reaches the apex. When it's going side to side, there's no micro serration at the apex. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's look at the other side just really quickly. And yeah, you can see the same thing on this side. So there's the scratch pattern is not running in the right direction, in my opinion. Now, how bad is this? It's not that big of a deal, but personally for me, because the way you strop is going to be the direction I'm talking about, the way you cut is going to be the direction I'm talking about. So in every way, shape, and form, having the scratch pattern in the correct direction, in the direction I'm saying, is going to benefit you in the long haul. So, like I was saying, if the scratches are running side to side like this, then when I go to strop, what direction is this abrasive going on the edge? Because this is an abrasive, so when I strop, I'm adding little micro scratches going this way, not this way. So in order for me to go that way, I'd have to strop like this. So it just doesn't make sense. So in order for me to strop, you know, you preferably want to do it like this. And that leads to the scratches running at an angle, the same angle you cut, and it makes it to where you can follow it from sharpening stone to stropping to your cutting performance, making it, you know, just optimal, a little bit better. So is it that big of a deal? Possibly not. You know, I'm being very picky here, but you know, I do like high performance edges, so I think probably a little bit more in depth about them than a lot of people. So take that into consideration. Don't forget, guys, we got stroppy stuff on the NEEVEKNIVECO site now. So if you want to get some stroppy stuff, it's a diamond emulsion. In my opinion, it's the best stropping compound you can buy. It's got high concentration, and you know, just the suspension of the diamonds inside of it, it's phenomenal. It's, like I said, I think it's the best, and it's color coordinated. So you can get, each micron is going to be a specific color, so you're not going to have to worry about cross contamination, you know, or anything like that. But that's all linked down in the description. Check out NEEVEKNIVECO and get yourself some stroppy stuff. But right now, let's talk about sharpening. Because what I want to do, really quick, is I want to put the scratch pattern the correct direction on this knife. Do I think anything's being hurt by it not being the direction I'm talking about? No, not really. But in the long term, you know, this would be just a more optimal edge, right? Think about a saw blade, right? You wouldn't want to use a saw blade that doesn't have teeth, right? It's the same concept with your edge bevel. You want there to be microscopic teeth, which is what that scratch pattern does when it's running at an angle or straight up and down, because factory edges will be straight up and down. Stone sharpened edges, freehand sharpened or on fixed angle systems, should run at a direction or at an angle, but that doesn't mean it's going to, because you can always not do it like that. You know, you can sharpen it up in a lot of different ways. And that's why, you know, I can be a little bit critical, or I tend to be a little bit critical about it, because there are different ways to do it, but there's also the best way. So basically all I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to put a new scratch pattern on the bevel. I want to create a burr because I want to make sure that I add a new toothy pattern, or a new toothiness, a new micro serrations on the apex. So this shouldn't take long. Should be able to do this pretty quickly. Okay, so here is the new scratch pattern, the new edge bevel, and you can see the scratches are running at an angle, running from the top of the bevel down to the apex, and each one of those scratches ends at the apex, equaling a little micro serration. We'll check out the other side. Again, you can see the scratch pattern running at an angle from the top of the bevel down to the apex, you know, slanted just a little bit, because that is the direction you will cut. So the scratches are running that way. So some of the things I'm loving about this knife before we get into the negatives, the blade geometry is super thin. I love its cutting performance and just the ease of use, the ease of sharpening, because it's so thin behind the edge. It's going to sharpen up incredibly fast. Stropping is going to be more responsive. Honing is going to be more responsive. You know, it should hold an edge a bit longer. So I love everything about the blade. The blasted titanium does add a little bit of tactileness to, you know, the grip, and it is very comfortable. The blade and handle do mix together very, very well. I love the look of it. The inlay work is done very well. I love the hardware, and they didn't skimp us on the hardware. Nice big hardware. Always love to see that. But we do have, oh wait, and also I like that there's a steel lock bar insert. I like to see that. The lockup, it does engage very well. You can see an over travel stop right there. Now, as far as it being open, locked open, no side to side, no up or down. It is very solid, but we do have some negatives. So let's talk about them. So first one is it does have a little bit of pivot lash if I unlock it like this and I go like this. It's very, very, very minor, but I can feel just a hint of shift in the pivot. No pivot lash, you know, or detent, sorry, no detent lash. It does have pivot lash. No detent lash. Like I said, it's solid when it's open, no side to side, but when it's disengaged, I can feel a little tiny bit. You know, that's something they can easily fix. This is still a prototype. Another thing is it actually does fail pretty easily. It does not take very much effort at all to fail this knife, so, you know, they're going to have to work on the lock face geometry and make sure, you know, it's not slipping. I did dry it off, I've wiped it off, I've cleaned it off, I've done everything, and the ramp, you know, maybe the ramp just needs to be a little bit less on this side, or maybe it just needs a little bit of texture there, something like that, to add a little bit of grit, so you know it has some friction. Like I said, no play in any direction, and that doesn't scare me to use in any way. I doubt it would fold on me with the thumb pressure, because since it's a frame lock, I am going to be squeezing it, but there's always that chance, you know. But you know, hey, that's why I show it, because there is that chance. And when it does come down on you, something this thin and this slicey is going to do damage. The next thing, the clip. I'm not a fan of this clip. The clip, well, one, it sings to you because there's a gap underneath there. Now, the clip doesn't work horribly, but it just has no give. That's my problem with it. There's like just no spring to it. When you put it in, yeah, you feel it lift, but there's just like, you don't feel, it doesn't feel like the ramp is going up and over the seam of your pocket and then back out. It feels a little clunky, like it just gets in there and then, you know, it's almost like there's no tension. It's just a stiff clip. So I would prefer a little bit more spring to it, and I would prefer if it was touching the knife, so we didn't have the tap-tap-tap-a-roo. The next thing is the AEBL steel. While I like AEBL, and I understand this is a mid-tech, so I understand people probably, you know, when they buy it, I'm sure they'll carry it and use it, but they're not going to, you know, use it as a work knife in most cases. But just because of the price, and when you look at the competition and, you know, and all of that stuff, I would prefer it to be a higher grade steel. You know, you can pick it. Crewware, S90V, M390, MagnaCut, even S30V. Even S30V would be fine. S35VN. Something to where it is, you know, a little bit more premium than AEBL. AEBL is a very, very, very affordable steel. It was originally made for razor blades, to, you know, so you can imagine, you know, it's a very affordable steel. Now, there's a lot of benefits to AEBL that I freaking love, like how well it does with thin geometry, and how well it holds bite, and, you know, just how sharp it gets and all that stuff is all great. But as far as wear resistance goes, it's going to be very low on, you know, on the chart when it comes to steels. One of the highest toughness steels, though, the toughness is off the charts, and that's why it does so good with its edge stability with thin geometry, and the stain resistance is good, but the wear resistance is very low, and, you know, I think using a different steel, you can make up for that. Next thing, as far as the scratch pattern from the sharpening, I'm not even considering that really that much of a negative, if at all a negative, because you can easily, you know, tune that up yourself and make it right. A lot of people are going to want it probably at its best when you first get it, especially since you already are doing a stone sharpened edge. I mean, that's amazing. So shout out to them for doing that, because that's an expense all on its own. You know, to sit there and hand sharpen each knife. You know, most factories use a belt, and, you know, it's just a high-powered electric belt, and it makes for very fast sharpening, but not such an optimal edge. All in all, I freaking love it. I love it. They're going to put the jimping up here. That's going to be really cool. It might even, I doubt it'll help you in any way with the front flipper, but what it will do is give you some traction when it's opened up. He's talking about closing up this gap right here. Hopefully he can, you know, adjust this clip a little bit, and, you know, a little bit of lock face geometry, you know, get the pivot a little bit tighter. All in all, man, this thing does feel very, very, very high quality. The things I'm picking about, you gotta understand, I went through this thing like with a fine-tooth comb. Otherwise, I would have never noticed any of this stuff. I want to be 100% clear. If I didn't check for this stuff and was very critical, I would not notice that one bit. So all in all, man, solid knife. I freaking like it a lot. I love the design. I love the build. The towel. Look at how tight this fitment is. Now that is good fitment. You see that? Look at how tight that blade is between those scales. Very, very tight fitment. They did a really good job. Super smooth. Perfect centering. Lots of good things about this knife, man. Lots of good things. Let's check out the paperwork really quick. So, we can see how you're going to be able to get it. So I'll let you pause and read if you want to read this whole thing. But the bottom is what we're looking for. So you can see right here, it's a midtech knife. My parts will be made by Schenk Knives out of Idaho Falls. They will supply the scales and the inlay cut, backspacer, and clip in the raw finish. The blade is a CNC milled hollow ground in AEBL stainless. Blade shape is a modified Wharncliffe. Blade will also be sent in raw finish so I can set lock up and final finish work. Scales will be bead blasted and stone washed finish, with all inlays being my custom made Tokay camo carbon. All hardware clip and backspacers will be black washed finished titanium. But you can see if you read the rest, you know, like he talks about some of his OEM work and stuff like that. And then here's the second sheet. It says at this time the plan is for them to send batches of 20 at a time so I can work on them without being overloaded. There will be 100 made, but I will probably offer 80 to 90 up front for pre-order just to be sure I have enough parts in case there are any issues to deal with. If all goes well, I will offer the final ones later. I don't want to say any pre-order dates yet until I know parts are being started. Once they begin, I will announce the info on Facebook and Instagram, and orders will be done on my website. You can see the website right there. The price point is $750 to $800. So there you guys go. I'm gonna, you know, you can find him on Instagram. Very easy to find. You guys seen his name right there. So definitely check him out and stay up to date with what he's doing. I think he's going to have some really awesome stuff made from overseas with some OEM work from over there that I think could, you know, that sounds like it could have a lot of potential. Just looking at the way this is, holy cow, you know. Yeah, he definitely knows what he's doing, and he's doing great work. I think we're going to continue to see a lot more from this guy, and I can't wait. Work hard, stay tough. Until next time, peace.